Hello there, my name is Segelke. Today I'd like to share with you a look into the process of how I made my stop-motion animation Leshy puppet. Beginning at the beginning, where I often like to begin, I made some sketches in my sketchbook. From there, I made a bigger sketch and started making a wire armature with wires of different thicknesses, colored thread, and contact cement, following my teacher's diagrams. I used some JB Quick to attach these tie-down attachments for the feet. My stop-motion teacher Dino then gave me this 3D printed scissor jack for my puppet, since my plan was to have the puppet with a covered cloak-like body. According to Dino, these types of scissor jacks are how they animated big dress-wearing characters in Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. They'd animate the scissor jack going up and down so the puppet would bob up and down to make it seem like they were walking. I drilled some holes into the scissor jack for the tie-down attachments to attach, and then subsequently attached them. A shocking turn of events, I'm sure. Then I made the neck wires, which had to be very thick to support all the crazy weird stuff I planned to have sticking out of the head. For a moment, my puppet looked like the Jamaican cinnamon stick from Applejacks. Then he grew taller, and then it was on to designing the cape. This paper triangle would make up one wedge of the cape, and I used it as a stencil as I cut out triangles of wood fabrics I found at Joann's. Once I cut out enough wedges to make the cape, I tried laying them all out in different orientations until I found one I liked. I had my first experiences, failures, and then ultimately success with the sewing machine as I made this cape. I fluffed up the armature with foam to give it some heft so the cape would have something to rest on and give the puppet more shape. I then added some wire hoops to the underside of the cape, as well as some wires hidden at the seams of the cape, although I forgot to take pictures of the wires at the seams. Now the cape could be fully animated. It also made for a fashionable hat. Then I glued the cape down to the shoulders. Next it was onto the decorations for the cape. I bought a decorative holiday felt chain thingy from Joann's, which I then dissected to get the separate leaves. Then I used one of those leaves as a stencil to cut out a bunch of similar leaves from some green felt. Once I got an idea of how I wanted it to look, I started hot gluing the different leaves in place. I tried my hand at 3D modeling per my teacher's recommendation, which resulted in this head that you see here, that my teacher printed out for me, although the first one we printed was too small because I didn't know the measurements. Next it was time to make the antlers. My teacher gave me a box of material he referred to as scrap warbler. I was dubious at first, but I fell in love with the material over time. You simply zap it with a heat gun and it becomes fully moldable like clay. Once it dries, it becomes pretty sturdy. I was pretty happy with how easily I was able to bring my spindly, weird drawings to life. Then I smoothed and added some texture to the 3D printed head, so it would look less like a 3D printed ball and more like the foresty thing I wanted. I used an electric hot knife tool to give it some foresty grooves to look like tree bark. Then I heated up the antlers and smooshed them into place inside the head so they would fit snugly and stay put. I forgot to take a picture of it, but my friend Will taught me how to solder, and he guided me through soldering this LED light to put inside the head for the eyes to light up. Next I used more JB Quick to affix the head to the neck. I put these orange gels inside the head to try and give the LED light a more thematic color, but it wasn't quite working how I wanted. I also put some paper in there to act as diffusion. Then I sculpted more mushrooms out of that scrap warbler, which was actually pretty fun, and I'm pretty happy with how they turned out. Once the shrooms and antlers were done and dusted, it was time to give my lad a haircut. Okay, not really, but the plastic bag looked like a barber cape. My friend Mel showed me how to operate a spray can, and together we painted the head this rich woody color. Then I painted some veins onto each leaf, individually, which took a little while. Then I started painting the shrooms. My friend took a work in progress picture of me with my puppet at this time. Then I took a break to test out the LED lights in the head, which only gave the dramatic energy I was hoping for if I turned off every other light source. Otherwise, the effect was hardly noticeable. Then I went back and finished all the details on the mushrooms. My teacher helped me put this special clay into the scissor jack rig so I could fit a screwdriver in there and twist it up and down. You can see the wires and the battery in this picture as well, and I had to snake the wires through the neck and the cape. And now my forest Leshy was finished. Seen here in a picture next to some of my friend Mel's finished puppets. Then I had to bring my storyboard to life. Before I show you the finished animations, I'll show you the full animatic as I originally planned. Now my fellow animator Nicolette was kind enough to let me shoot on their awesome forest set as seen here. I snapped one last photo of the creator with the creation in this little forest world, and then I hopped into the actual animating. I'll share with you some first run test footage that was fairly rough, followed by the final animation in context with sound design and all that stuff. I also added some glowing eye effects in After Effects after the fact because I couldn't get the lights to work on set the way I wanted, and so I had to do it manually in post. Enjoy.